Hi everyone, and welcome back to another Meet the Team interview. Today we have Dan with us. Dan, do you want to just give us a brief introduction to yourself?
Yes, I am the Director of Technology and Innovation at CIS. I've been with the company coming up to 7 years. I started off as a systems engineer 7 years ago, and then sort of climbed through the ranks to where I am now.
And what is your position now?
So Director of Technology and Innovation. So sort of day to day, I suppose I'm primarily responsible for our cloud platform, and I suppose overall responsibility of our technology stack. So the various technologies we provide, we consult on, and train our customers in. And then aside from that, I get involved quite a lot with sort of more bespoke projects or ones that are perhaps a little different to the norm that we come across. Or where particular requirements are made, basically. It's pretty fun in that regard.
And what kind of things are you coming up with solutions for quite frequently? What do you see a lot of?
So suppose the last where do I go? The last few years, more of a sort of the cybersecurity side of things. So there's definitely been more of our customers becoming, I suppose, sort of worried well. So where you've seen in the press more cases of well-known brands that have had cybersecurity issues. You go back to like the Talk event, their breach, obviously the NHS and WannaCry, and then pretty much at least once a week there will be in the national press somewhere some fairly major IT type issue. That's really focused a lot of our customers on their cybersecurity posture, and then becoming more aware of it. Couple that with I suppose the decentralization of a lot of their product stacks. So whereas before they might have been say had an on-premise email server which has a very small presence on the wider internet, because it's all behind just the one IP address, but where a lot of customers have moved to platforms like Office 365 now, Microsoft 365, that has kind of opened them up to a lot more issues, because by being on that platform, they have a wider presence. Someone can quite easily find out an email address from other leaked data. It might be things like the various Dropbox events, or where these websites are turned over and people are reusing the same email address. Well, if you know what you're doing, it's fairly straightforward to then query and work out if that person is on 365, and then you might try various passwords and try and get into an email account that way. So we see a lot more cybersecurity type queries coming up. And then the other one which I get involved a lot with is moving customers from their on-premise solution, so where they did have a server in the corner, for instance, or a couple of servers, either putting those in our data center, because they don't want to be concerned with the day-to-day operations of it, make sure slightly simple things, but also can be a right pain. Things like, is the air conditioning in the room working? If it's not, well, the server's going to get too hot and it's going to turn itself off. Have I got continual power? A lot of the practical elements that we can move those customers to our data center, which for the last 2 years has had 100% uptime. We've not had an outage, touch wood, and just give that peace of mind and just take away that management. That's not to say that's always the right solution. Some customers might have servers coupled to very specific hardware, for instance. So if it's a manufacturing plant, or the architecture doesn't lend itself well to that type of situation, then we will perhaps move them, we'll leave them on premise, but then we'll make sure we have a good DR position for them, so that in the event that they had a catastrophe, someone breaks in and steals their servers, or there's a fire, or air conditioning starts leaking, those kind of events which happen, then we can pretty quickly get them back on their feet. And in fact, we've seen, especially in the last few months, a lot of organizations where the reasons for not moving to the cloud maybe 3 or 4 years ago have actually kind of disappeared. And it's become something of a necessity to move to the cloud, because they haven't got someone on site maybe checking the backups, or checking the air conditioning, or if there is a power cut, there's no one to go turn servers on, or there's been quite a lot of movement in the last couple of months in that regard.
Yeah. So you said you've been with CIS around 7 years now. Where did you kind of come from before that, and what made you want to join CIS?
So I have always loved IT. I go back to when I was 11, 12, whatever. I wasn't up in my bedroom playing computer games. I got really excited about having two computers talking to each other. Sounds very very geeky, very nerdy, but that was kind of my passion. And so from a fairly early age, I decided, right, IT data comms is where I want to be. Went off to University of Portsmouth, did a degree in computer network management design, did an internship with Hewlett Packard, worked for a local security company in Oxfordshire for a good few years, sort of heading up their internal IT, as well as working with network architects on things like CCTV and access control systems. So sort of applying it in a slightly non-traditional IT sense, but it was quite interesting. And then I took a bit of a weird sideways career step, went to work in basically a sales type role, and I realized when my first son was born that I kind of really missed the IT. I did it for about 6 months, went on paternity leave for a few weeks, and got to the end of it thinking, what I really miss, actually doing what that 11, 12-year-old kid enjoyed, which was playing with networks and all that kind of thing. So I came off paternity leave, started putting my CV back together, worked with some local recruitment agencies, and had an interview with a few different places. Went for an interview with Neil at CIS, and within sort of 10 minutes, it was kind of this is the right fit. It was very much technical focused as opposed to sort of salesy focused, and that it was all about sort of architecture and solutions design and all that kind of thing. I was like, this is exactly what I've loved for the previous 15 years. So it was a really easy thing to sort of step back into and enjoy IT for IT's sake to a certain extent.
Yeah. And since you joined CIS 7 years ago, what are your kind of personal highlights, things you've achieved that you'd like to share with us?
So a few. So for the last 3, maybe even 4 years now, I've kind of been the primary person responsible for our data center, and we had a fairly big issue. About maybe 4 years ago now, and we managed to move basically our entire customer base on within our own data center with 0 downtime. So that was it was pretty.
It's a challenge.
Took a lot of planning. Took a lot of planning. And we had to be very methodical and very cautious in how we did it all. But at no point did we actually lose customer. Customers didn't, they weren't even aware, quite frankly, unless they were paying attention to some of our notices just to say we're doing maintenance. But yeah, that was tough. We didn't have a choice in the matter. We did it, and that's been stable ever since. So it was really good to fix a fundamental issue, and and not impact customers. And then I've been involved in some really good customers where they've kind of grown with me at CIS over the last 7 years. So some of the customers I work particularly closely with, who tend to now be atypical for CIS, so that they will have internal IT resources, for instance. We have been involved in a lot of the next phase for that organization. So is that more servers, is that different services, and seen those organizations grow up. So one springs to mind that probably shouldn't mention their name, but when I joined CIS, they were probably 30 users and staff, and now they are, crikey, probably 300 staff and about 200 users, give or take. And that the IT infrastructure for a 30 user organization compared to one that's near on 10 times is obviously very different, but that solution has evolved with us, through us, with our input, as well as the customers. So it's really nice to see that design, even coming up for say 4 years ago, is still working, and now we're talking about that organization might become significantly larger. And it's really, I love that, seeing the evolution, if you like, of the customer in that regard. And then finally, onboarding new products. So probably the one I'm most proud of is our Beam Cloud Connect platform. Just such a good fit for our customers and for CIS even. It takes advantage of what we're good at, which is our data center operations, and our security posture. So we have a fully redundant, highly available backup offering that to the end user is a very simple process. And then I quite admire that the complexity that goes on the back end really empowers a real simplistic front end. So we say to a customer that it's probably a good idea for you to have an offsite backup for all the obvious reasons, around theft, loss of data, the recovery process, all those kind of things. And then within half an hour, we can say, right, you're offsite, it's done. And it's like, wow, actually it didn't take that much, and it's really quite nice. And that is only possible because of the back end engineering that happened to facilitate that. So I quite like taking the complex, making it simple, and seeing how those types of solutions grow as well. So we go back, I think 3 years ago, when we first had that solution in place, we had a couple of customers on it. It was all working fine, but now we've got tens, if not pushing hundreds of servers and workstations all backing up to that same environment. And the engineers roll it out. I very rarely now get involved, which is quite nice. So it's quite nice to see that product set just kind of evolve and spread its own wings. And I get involved very occasionally, but for the day-to-day, the engineers take care of it. And it's quite satisfying to see that one.
And just for the last question, obviously at the moment it's a really new situation for a lot of us, businesses dealing with remote work and that kind of thing. One thing we haven't really talked about is, are there any upsides that you can think of to COVID, and also what are the biggest issues been that you've encountered?
So there's the personal. So I work quite a distance from the office, and I say it's been quite nice not having an hour's commute either side of the working day. So I've personally got quite a bit more time back, which is a personal upside. Obviously not filling the car up, actually, dare I say, being a bit greener about it all. That has been a nice upside. In terms of kind of like the actual remote working aspect, the position I'm in, I've always worked from home a reasonable amount anyway, or been on the road a lot, probably is slightly more accurate. So seeing customers and the data set, the environment we all work with works equally well, whether we're in the office or whether we're on the road. Makes little difference. And you know, by, dare I say, sort of practicing what we preach, has enabled us to, you know, just go out to customers, and, you know, where those customers have had to, you know, enforce home working, it's been a fairly straightforward process, really. You know, there's obviously been, you know, a lot of issues around perhaps customers that didn't have desktops and laptops and at home, or they didn't have kind of that mobile first workforce. But where we are and have always had good remote working capabilities, we've just taken that knowledge and, you know, passed it back down to the customers, and then they got a lot of them all up and running quite quickly. It's been quite satisfying, I think, to see how, you know, just how quickly a lot of our customers have got working from home successfully, you know, and with fairly minimal changes, really, to the end user anyway. You know, and you know, kind of all gone on that journey together, and, you know, our engineers have been absolutely brilliant in just making sure it's happened. You know, but, you know, we've seen plenty of tickets being worked on perhaps later in the evening, or you know, over a weekend, just to get a customer, you know, working again. And then that kind of, I suppose, camaraderie, really, and that team spirit, whilst we're not all sitting in the same room, and we're not all, you know, seeing each other for a beer on a Friday night, has been really quite nice. Yeah, so, you know, another upside has really been that team spirit. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much for doing this interview today. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you. And thank you everyone who'd watched this, and we look forward to coming back next week with another interview. Thanks, Dan, so much.
Thank you.